What's going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be taking a look at Weird West, which I admit I'm a little bit behind on, as this game sort of flew under my radar. I do remember seeing a trailer for it, like maybe a year ago or so, I want to say, but didn't even know that it came out at the end of March. And yeah, it actually is getting really good reviews, and I love Westerns, and I love the art style and stuff like that, and it looked kind of interesting, sort of like a isometric, like almost like a Divinity Original Sin / Diablo / original Fallout type of games with some simulator aspects. So very interesting. So we're going to take a look at the performance, and I'll also talk about the gameplay and everything. Just kind of give my first impressions on, like I said, the performance as well as the gameplay. But first, let's jump into the graphics options. I'll give you guys a look at what's in there, and then we'll jump into the game itself. So as you can see here, I was playing everything at 4K. I did have motion blur turned off. I'm not sure why it switched back to on there. 4K full screen. It also supports borderless as well as windowed. You can run VSync on or off, or you could also uncap the FPS or set it to any of the values that it has in here, even ones that are higher than what my monitor supports, as I'm playing on a 4K 120Hz display. And the graphics options, there are not tons, but it's a very specific sort of cel-shaded type of art style, something akin to like Borderlands. So we've got texture quality, shadow quality, visual effects level of detail, and foliage level of detail, which all go up to epic. So those are the highest available settings in the game, and only 4 graphics options. But it's not terribly difficult to drive, but some areas a little bit more taxing than others, like in the towns with lots of stuff and everything on the screen. So let's get jumped into it, talk about the performance as well as the gameplay for Weird West from Devolver Digital, which is available now on Steam for $40. But first, today's video is brought to you by PrimeTechMart.com, where you can save money on software like Windows 10 Pro licenses for under $25. They've also got Windows 10 Home for under $20, and now Windows 11 Pro you can grab over on PrimeTechMart.com. They've also got Office 2019 and the new Office 2021. And if you want to save an additional 20% at checkout on Windows 10 or any other software, go ahead and click Buy It Now, and during the checkout process, go ahead and put JP20 in and apply that coupon, and that'll give you 20% off of any software that you happen to pick up over there. So for Windows 10 Pro, you can see it dropped our price down from $24.46 to under $20. So be sure to hit up the links down in the description below, and don't forget to use my coupon code JP20 at checkout for an additional 20% off. So as I said at the start, this game kind of flew under my radar, and I feel like it's probably going to be the case with maybe a lot of other people as well. So I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time in this port report discussing gameplay elements and what I like or dislike about this game. So far, there's really not too much to dislike, but there's some opinions and feedback I sort of want to give on the general gameplay and stuff. But first, to quickly tackle performance in the game, it ran extremely well. Most of the time, I would say I was over 100 frames per second. And, you would think that with the art style and all of that, that it would, pretty much be pinned at 120 FPS, locked on VSync or whatever. I was running uncapped on the frame rate, but the game is actually somewhat demanding to run. There's definitely some areas like indoors where it runs a little bit better than others, but for the most part, as far as the port quality is concerned, I really don't have any complaints, as the frame time graph's extremely smooth on DirectX 11 here, so really no big frame rate hitches or spikes in any way whatsoever. I would see them kind of flutter in like load screens, as there are quite a few load screens in the game as you sort of travel from one instance to the next. It's not like this one big massive open world like, say, Red Dead Redemption. You kind of go from instance to instance, and there's a lot of fast traveling and stuff along those lines. But overall, I'm pleased enough with the performance, and I don't think too many people have issues running this game, depending on resolution. But if you're on any sort of modern hardware, it shouldn't be that to run. It also wasn't particularly CPU demanding, even in some of the city areas and stuff where it was definitely more taxing than others. Like in the main town of Grackle, where there's a lot of buildings, a lot of objects on screen, people walking around and all that. There's not like tons of NPCs walking around, but they're there. You can interact with them, and they all sort of matter in the game world. And that's sort of one of the unique things about this, and why it's referred to as a sim game, even though it's not like a simulator in terms of like hyper realistic movement and all that stuff. I mean, the game has bullet time, something like you would see in a Max Payne or a Matrix type of scenario. And there are also these supernatural creatures in the game that you'll be interacting and fighting with eventually at some point. I haven't gotten far enough into the game, but I have seen some of the elements of that early on in about the first hour of the game. So it's not a simulator in that sense. It's not like a true Western game, but it's a simulator in the sense of how the world reacts to your actions, as all of your actions do have an impact on what's going to happen. If you steal a horse, you might have some negative repercussions, not so much just in the case of, oh, they're going to come after you and try to kill you, but, it might open up a whole new storyline depending on whose horse that it was, or you might go rob a grave, and then you might find like the widow of the person is now wanting to kill you in town because you robbed the grave of her husband, and things like that. And there's just all of these, what's seemingly like endless different interactions that can happen in the world, depending on your actions. So it feels very alive in that sense, where everything you do really does matter, and how you talk to people matters. You might find someone that's, maybe not wanting to answer your questions, might be responding hostilely to you, and you'll be given different options of whether you want to be more aggressive with them, whether you want to be, nicer to them, and you'll find varying different results based on how you interact with different people in the game. There's no really voice acting to speak of. It's all sort of text-based. There is a narrator that speaks over in the background to sort of give you some background on what's going on in the story, but for the most part, all of the interactions that you have with the NPCs and all of that in the game world, it's all text-based. So there's a lot of reading and, doing different like chat options and all that stuff to figure out the information that you're going to utilize. As far as the gameplay is concerned, I've actually been enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to. But I love the art style and like the mechanics of it. It's sort of like I was saying at the beginning a little bit. It's sort of like a cross between like a Diablo-esque type of game, I want to say, just because of like the camera angles and all of that. But then it's also a little bit like Divinity Original Sin in terms of like the way you interact with people in the world and how it all matters and how it affects everything going on around you. It's not turn-based like Divinity. It's definitely more action-oriented, so, and you could also, there's also stealth elements. You can also, sneak around and hide in bushes, hide bodies, things along those lines, and you can also get into shootouts, and there's a lot of different tactics you can utilize. You can pretty much approach each combat scenario in the way that you want to. Thankfully, the game also has a quick save option mapped to F5, so anytime you're about to maybe go into an engagement and you think it might not go the way that you expected, or you want to try out different tactics, you can quickly go ahead and hit F5 and then see what happens. Maybe just throw in a stick of dynamite and see what happens. You can kick over barrels of toxic waste or oil and then set those on fire and see what happens. And in the early stages, I've found the combat to be somewhat difficult. I haven't died yet, but I definitely have gotten closer. And I think it's just something that needs a little bit more of a learning curve. I haven't played a game like this in quite some time. So I think it's just more, like I said, I think it's more just a learning curve. Like you kind of have to get used to the combat and, go like popping up and out of cover. And the enemies also can be quite difficult as they will swarm you, but they're also relatively easy to get away from. You can kind of do a couple of quick rolls and get away from them, and you'll see like their notification over their head as to whether they're looking for you or not, or if they've gone back to their post. And it all kind of happens pretty quick. So each scenario is different, and it's a lot of fun, honestly, and I'm really curious to see where the story's going to go in the game, even though it's all, kind of like text-based and everything. It's kind of, gripped me pretty early on, as you're playing a female bounty hunter who was retired, but then she's coming out of retirement, so everyone's sort of happy to see her back, and all of that. And there's upgrades, there's perks, skill trees, all of that. You get lots of loot, and you could sell stuff in town and craft things, and you can get better deals with the blacksmith if you do him favors, or there's all sorts of different things like that, like side quests. Like you might be going on a main mission, but you might find something along the way that'll say like, hey, while you're going there, if you could free my husband and bring him back, that would be great, and I'll give you this great reward. So it has all of those sort of like role-playing game type of elements. So it's definitely an RPG, but it's an action RPG Western in a really cool art style, and I just feel like I haven't played anything like this in quite a while, especially in the Old West and Western style and all that with revolvers and all of those things. So very cool game here from Devolver Digital. I highly recommend you guys check it out, maybe now or maybe if it ever goes on sale at some point. Like I said, it's on Steam right now. It's $40. It's got mostly positive reviews. It's not a tremendous download. I think it was like maybe 7 or 8 gigabytes. And it's just, it's a hell of a good time, and I'm looking forward to getting into it more. It's also available on consoles. I actually wouldn't mind playing this on my PS5 on the big screen TV. It's sort of a slow-paced game, and you can kind of want to take your time with it. But I'm enjoying it so far, and I definitely recommend you check out some more reviews from people that you trust as far as gameplay and stuff is concerned, like ACG. He's awesome. He has great reviews. So take a look at it. If it's something you're into, I would definitely say pick it up, as it's running great on PC, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on Weird West, especially if you've been playing it, and let me know what you've been thinking of it. Also, offer me up any tips. As I said, I was having a little bit of trouble with some of the combat, just trying to figure it out and all of that and the best tactics for it. But I can also tell it's like one of those things that's like not super easy to play at first, but once you sort of master it and figure out all of the mechanics, I have a feeling like I'm going to be, diving over rocks and shooting barrels all over the place and destroying everyone on screen. At some point in the game, you'll get to the certain point where you have the right level ups and you get comfortable enough with the combat where it just starts to feel very fluid and you just feel like a complete badass that can kill anything. So it definitely feels like it's that type of game where you have to learn it, but once you do and you master it, you're going to be unstoppable. So I look forward to getting there because it is rewarding to play the game and interesting to see all the different interactions and how everything you do affects the world around you. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and stop rambling, and I'll catch you guys next time for another video. Tirana, which means goodbye.